Chapter 12. Court of the Rex. The company traveled on. During a rest, Hector paged through Merlin's book and made an important discovery about who, or what, the Tyrannosaurus Rex actually was. He took the opportunity to educate the others. They all examined Merlin's book. "Crikey, he's a big fellow," said Eric. "Clearly the king." "Yes, it would appear to be the most terrible of the lizards." "Let's go meet him then," said Bors, gathering up his sword and shield. They climbed steadily up an incline. The trees were smaller and more bare. The air was thick. The noises were fewer. The Black Knight stopped. "I think we're getting close," she said. The others joined her and saw what had stopped her in her tracks. The skeleton of a three-horned beast lay before them. Its bones were picked clean. "There's another," said Bors, pointing down the trail to the remains of one of the long-necked creatures. "It's massive, and apparently no match for the king." Farther along were several more skeletons, some intact, some torn to pieces. The path was strewn with carnage. Hector gulped. "Steady on," said Eric. They moved slowly past the hulking skeletons and carcasses. Insects buzzed, and small scavenger lizards rustled past occasionally. Otherwise, all was silent. The bone trail led to a wide, dusty valley. Rock walls climbed up the western edge. The canyons and hills lay to the north. In the east, it was a tangled mass of dead, gnarled trees and dry brush. The entire place felt like death. Nothing could thrive here. Roar! Nothing except the king. The knights entered the arena cautiously. Mel pointed and spoke. "There, on top of that rock hill. That's our cave." It was indeed the cave. Their trek had brought them back to where they had started. But the hill leading to the cave was on the far side of the valley. Roar! From the shadows of the valley, an enormous creature emerged and blocked the path to the cave. Its powerful muscles rippled with each step. Its tail swished slowly in the air. Sharp teeth, not too long to be contained, protruded from its mouth. Despite its size, it moved fast and carried itself with poise and confidence. "Right," said Bors. "Not so bad." Rocks crumbled underfoot. Two more tyrannosaurs joined the first. Each was bigger than the last. Finally, the largest and most fearsome Tyrannosaurus Rex of all took its place at the lead. Hector's mouth hung open slightly. "Oh, my, Lancelot. Looks like we have the entire royal family to deal with," said Eric. "One for each," said Bors. "No," said Eric. "We fight together. Mel, go to the side there in the brush. Make your way toward the cave once the battle begins. Stay low and quiet." "Sir, I'm not leaving," said Mel. Eric turned to face her. "We fight together. You said so yourself." Mel stood her ground. "Very well. Now would be a good time for you to come up with another exit strategy. Stay alive at least until you think of something," said Eric with a grin. The tyrannosaurs sniffed the air, snorted, and twitched their mighty tails. The knights turned to face the terrible lizards. They drew their swords. "Fellow knights," said Eric, "I would like to make a confession. In truth, I did not slay 40 dragons. Furthermore, I have never in my entire life even seen a dragon." There was silence. "Neither have I," stated Bors. "Nor I," said Hector. "Not one," said Magdalena. "But here in this strange land we have encountered the fiercest, most terrible creatures imaginable," Eric continued. "And time and again, we, valiant knights, fought bravely and well. We've matched them in strength and courage, and we have bested them in strategy." He nodded to Mel. Mel nodded back. "I say this not to boast. It is the truth. Our deeds have no need for embellishment or exaggeration." Eric paused. "I have no illusions about what we now faced. These monsters may very well be the end of us. They are certainly worthy opponents." The largest T-Rex took a step toward the knights. "But we are knights of King Arthur's Round Table." This is a glorious day, and I cannot imagine being among a better band of heroes. Shields raised, swords at the ready, the four knights strode toward the terrible lizards. The tyrannosaurs attacked in a flash. The shields were no match for the force of the initial impact, and the knights were knocked back. Eric swung at the belly of one beast. His sword glanced off the thick hide, but did not pierce it. No one's swords could penetrate the terrible lizard's armor. Bors, mace in one hand, sword in the other, attacked in a fierce combination of blows and stabs. But the teeth and jaws were the real danger. The lizards were fast and furious, and their chomps brutal and non-stop. Eric was the first to find himself lifted several feet off the ground. His armor kept the teeth from puncturing his vital organs, but the pressure of the monster's bite was tremendous. He whacked the terrible lizard on the snout, and then he whacked again and again. Sir Hector dodged the stomping legs of another tyrannosaur, pivoted, and brought his sword down on the tail of Eric's captor. The monster spun and loosened its grip, enough for Eric to slip out and grab hold of its neck. Its mercifully tiny arms reached and clawed, but to no avail. Eric kicked his leg against the beast's chest and flipped up onto its back. He gouged its eyes from behind. Hector and Bors stood back to back, facing off against two opponents. The flurry of swords kept the beasts at bay, but not deterred. They attacked with relentless energy. When Eric was finally tossed from the bucking tyrannosaur, he landed harshly on the ground and rolled away just in time to avoid being squashed underfoot. The Black Knight, sword in hand, fought back, the largest of the tyrannosaurs. She saw Eric, badly winded, with the T-Rex ready to pounce on him. Eric struggled to his feet. His opponent snorted and slowly opened its jaws, saliva dripping to the ground. Magdalena turned back to the gigantic T-Rex and shoved a sword into its mouth, lodging the weapon in its jaws. As the monster struggled, she leaped onto its tremendous haunch and hoisted herself onto its back. She took a deep breath, and then, with amazing dexterity, she ran straight down the T-Rex's spine, out onto the tail, and leaped off the monster just as the other T-Rex launched itself at Eric. The Black Knight landed between Eric and the beast. In a flash, she lifted a discarded shield and blocked the creature. Eric got to his feet and threw a mace to the Black Knight. Magdalena caught it and dealt the T-Rex a mighty blow. Mel watched in horror from the trees. The knights fought bravely, braver than any before, surely. But the odds were against them. The tyrannosaurs did not stop. They would not stop. She pulled the sack of extra weapons toward her. She might need to supply new weapons at a moment's notice. Notice! Her hand was gripping the bit of burned sack that had caught fire in the crevice by the lake. Fire! Mel dug into her pouch for her flint and striking stone. After several frantic moments, a spark caught a dead tree branch. She blew the flame, and it rose and licked its way up the wood. Mel waved the branch like a torch, running along the edge of the arena. She spread a blaze. It wound through the dry brush to the hill where the cave was located. "Sir Knights!" she yelled. Those who could looked up. Unfortunately, so did one of the terrible lizards. It roared in her direction, then it charged. But Sir Bors launched himself into the air and brought his sword down on the monster's foot. It snarled and turned, teeth bared. Bors bared his own teeth and roared back. He swung one powerful fist in a precisely placed uppercut. The punch connected. The terrible lizard's eyes crossed. It wobbled on its injured foot, then toppled over with a tremendous thud. Bors snorted and turned, fists ready. "Go!" he yelled at Mel. She ran, spreading the fire, which burned higher and higher. Hector and Eric swung their swords at their foes, knocking them back with each powerful blow. Soon Hector turned and ran toward the wall of flame. He bolted through a small opening in the blaze to join Mel. Eric came next, crashing through the fire. He stopped, dropped, and rolled on the ground to extinguish some stray flames. Eventually, Bors leaped through the fire to join the others at the foot of the hill. 3 of the tyrannosaurs approached the line slowly, the inferno confusing and angering them. They roared. They chomped the fire, then recoiled in pain. The barrier was working. "Where is the Black Knight?" said Mel, throwing her torch into the blaze. The knights peered through the flames and smoke. "There!" shouted Bors. The Black Knight faced off with the tyrant king. They slowly circled each other. The king swished its tail and snarled. It snapped at her. She jumped away, landed, then attacked, bringing down her mace. The handle broke in two. Magdalena tossed it aside. There were no other weapons within reach. She ran for the fire line. "Quickly!" called Eric. The Black Knight stumbled and fell. The king was on her in an instant, snapping her up in its jaws, her armor creaking and groaning. She pushed at its upper jaw, but the powerful beast clamped down even harder. That was when she got mad. The Black Knight grabbed a single tooth and pulled and tore it right out of the king's gum. It opened its mouth in a roar of pain. The Black Knight took hold of the king's tongue, yanked it out, and swung to the ground. Perhaps the king of terrible lizards had never felt such a sensation. For a moment, it didn't appear to know what to do, which was enough time for the Black Knight to race to the fire line again. She jumped straight through and landed safely on the other side. The king stuck its enormous head through the flames, then pulled back with a roar. The terrible lizards panicked. Smoke filled the clearing. As long as the fire around them raged, they were trapped. "Ha ha!" Eric chortled. "I'll bet they wish they were dragons now, eh?" Bors slapped Eric heartily on the back. "Good line, Sir Eric. Very witty indeed." And with that, the company made a hasty climb up the hill to the cave.